don't want to take you to how you should watch movies. I used to be part of, you might call this a cult, and looking back, I probably would too, but I used to be part of Christian fundamentalist groups that did not believe in owning a TV. I spent a little time there as a kid, and then when I grew up, kind of grew out of it as a teenager, our family kind of moved on to something else. And then when I became an adult, or a young adult, very young adult, I had this idea that was the way to go, And that kind of thinking treats television and movies or the stories like all they are is entertainment, okay? And you're just putting garbage in your mind, garbage in, garbage out. You call CBS, NBC, and ABC the three sewer lines that come into your house, and they call the TV the glass toilet and the television and Hollywood. I got all that stuff, okay? I used to preach sermons against having a TV in your house, okay? And I've changed recently, not just recently, but I've come to the point where stories can... If you watch a story with somebody who's close to you, they provide a lot of discussion points that give you an opportunity to discuss life and psychology and self-development. And just because the story is conveying a message, sometimes it conveys a message that it doesn't intend to, and that's very interesting. And just because the writer of the story is intending to convey a message, that's where your sense-making has to come in and say, well, if they're preaching a certain message, I have to see around that, okay? So I'm not... you keep using your sense-making, you keep using discernment, and you speak with the people in your life critically about what it is that you're watching, and you find out if there's any morals of the story that you can pull out, and you see if you can detect the agenda of the storyteller, that kind of thing. I was listening to Jordan Peterson, his Maps of Meaning, class number 9, and I've been through all Jordan Peterson's stuff, I think all his stuff, and I took his Maps of Meaning class, I took his personality class, his 2 psychology classes. I read his Maps of Meaning book, his newer book, and a lot of other information from him. In this Maps of Meaning class number 9, he's talking about literarily embedded and encoded wisdom. And he says, and these are, I was kind of typing notes as he's talking, so this might not be exact, but he says, we have information encoded in our behavior that transcends our understanding. And part of doing a play, like kids act out like their mom and dad, and like they're going to the grocery store. Kids pretend, they pretend they're soldiers and cops and robbers and cowboys and Indians. They pretend all these things. They act these things out. And as adults, we continue to act these kinds of things out in things like theater because it gives us a chance to mentally go through the process of a character in a story without having the cost of having to be that character, okay? We can see a character make bad choices and then reap the whirlwind, and us not actually have to reap that whirlwind ourselves. We get to war game mentally, if you will, vicariously through proxy, through somebody else in a story rather than having to do it ourselves. And so it is kind of a way of rehearsal for your own life to think things through. And so it's part of human nature to do this. So he says, you go see a Shakespeare play, and then after the Shakespeare play, you go and discuss the play with your friends. You go have lunch or coffee or something like that. And that's your attempt to take the behavioral wisdom that's encoded into the story and make it articulate. So we're doing that all the time. When you watch a movie, you do that. And he makes this statement. That's actually how educated people interact with literature. And of course, he's speaking extemporaneously. So maybe educated is not the best way to say, or some people would see that as a condescending tone, to use that word. But I have noticed that over the years, as I've gotten older and more mature, that is also how I watch literature. I watch pay attention to literature in any form, whether it's, written or on screen or whatever. So I take the people in my life and we have these conversations about the things that we watch, and that's what's enriching about it. It's not just entertainment. It's the way you can build the relationships and enrich your own life by having a discussion with people in your life, and then you create kind of a waypoint of growth that stems from something that you shared together in this experience, if you will. So he says that's how educated people interact with literature. So I would say that if you're watching movies, it's not that you're being entertained by them if you're doing it right. It's that you're interacting with literature in a way to see if there is something meaningful and timeless that can be extracted from what you're looking at, and something that can help build the relationships around you by dissecting together what it is that you just watched. All right. He says if you're uneducated, roughly speaking, you go see a movie and you just go see it, you never think about it. You don't think about it as something that was produced. You don't think about it as a cultural entity, and you never do that higher order analysis. And that is how I would describe myself watching stuff in the past. I thought of it as only entertainment, never did the higher order analysis on it. I was not equipped to do the higher order analysis on it. And now that I'm a little bit older, have a little more life experience behind me, there is a little bit of equipping to do a higher order analysis on it. And so watching stuff is a lot different now than it was 20 years ago for me. And so I hope that also some of you get what I'm saying here, and you don't see the fact that I'm talking about a movie and just absolutely flip your lid that I'm talking about a movie, okay? So if that's you, you might not be ready for this yet, okay?